Hello everyone, my name is Naguura, and today I'm going to be talking about the bug exploit that has recently been causing some drama in the race wall first. So, the recent drama that came up, we can look at Gingy's tweet here. It's like, Gingy's saying, bro, at Liquid Guild is sitting there openly exploiting Spellslinger stacks on a mythic boss. If this isn't ban-worthy, then what is? Crazy. Alright, so people are probably wondering, what is exploiting Spellslinger stacks? Alright, so it's a mage thing. Let me explain. So, arcane mages have the option to go Spellslinger as a hero talent build, which is actually not the best hero talent build. You would play the other one, which I obviously don't know what that one's called. But this one here, the way it works is that there's arcane splinters that embed themselves into their target, dealing X amount of arcane damage over 18 seconds, and this effect stacks. So it's a dot that stacks up. And then there's something called Splinter Storm. Whenever you have 8 or more active embedded arcane splinters, you automatically cast a Splinter Storm at your target. And that Splinter Storm basically consumes the stacks and does the remaining damage of the stacks as damage to the boss. So you just stack it up randomly to 8, then you cast on the boss, and it's like, it explodes. The bug here is, or the thing that is not working as intended, let's call it that, is that you can basically not target the boss, or target whatever it is you're trying to do damage on, and then you will never explode the stacks, and it stacks up really highly. And the way you achieve that is by, instead of targeting something and casting on it like you normally would, you replace all of your spells with macros that go on your focus. So it's like, you make a macro that says /cast at focus arcane missiles, /cast at focus arcane blast, whatever, right? And you just replace all of your spells, so you never target the boss directly. And you can see that here. This is a screenshot of I'm Fired Up's UI. So what he did was he was targeting himself, as you can see with this blue circle around his character here. He never was actually targeting the boss. It looks like he's targeting the boss, but this is actually just a focus frame. So he's /focusing the boss before they go in combat, move the focus frame to the target frame. And you can also see that the nameplate has this like pattern in it, which indicates that it's a focus. And then here you can see on the boss, you can see the stacks of the splinter. It goes to 224. And as we just read, it's supposed to explode at 8, right? And doing this gives him around like a 4% damage increase. So this is not like some 20 trillion like DPS increase or whatever. It's 4%, which is still very significant for a boss like this though, right? Because this boss, of course, has not been killed yet, by the way, as I'm recording this video. And 4% extra damage would be huge because this boss is such a difficult damage check that the guilds are like one tanking and doing like everything they can to gain extra damage, right? So a 4% damage increase, of course, being very significant. Now, once Fired Up was called out on Twitter, he did then change to the other talent tree again and was not using this bug anymore. I think it might have been fixed by now by Blizzard as well, but either way, he's not using it anymore. So he's playing normally again. Now, I do want to say that this was a clearly, like, intentionally used by Fired Up. Like, this was not something that happened in an accident or whatever, because obviously you're not going to be replacing all of your spells with macros randomly, and you're going to be moving your focus frame around, whatever. Like, it's very clear that Fired Up knew what he was doing. This is also something that has been known already for a couple of months even, apparently. I think it was Preheat that made a video about this as well during beta. So this is a known bug that has been around for a long time. And Fired Up also has not been using this bug all of the time. He only switched to it when they were closer to killing the boss. He then switched to this talent tree. So I love Fired Up. He's a great guy. He's amazing. I love Fired Up. But to say that it was not intended is definitely very naive. Like, this was intentional, yeah. Like, this was all set up intentionally, right? Now, the question is, should he get banned for this or not? One thing I want to note here, and I think it's very important, two things that are very important about the ban discussion here, is number one, did they gain an advantage for using this? And the answer is no. They have not killed the boss with this bug. And this boss does not have percentage-based phases or anything else that would happen just because the boss is lower. So there's different kinds of bosses in WoW, right? Some bosses have percentage-based phases. If you do more damage to something, then something else happens, and so on, right? And if it was a boss like this, you could argue, oh, well, they did gain an advantage. Even if they haven't killed the boss, they would have gained an advantage by pushing through another phase that they wouldn't have been able to do without the extra damage, and so on, right? And this boss in particular, there's no such thing. The difference between the boss being on 70% during the end rage or on 1% during the end rage is completely and utterly irrelevant. Okay, so it does not change anything on the boss. So that means they actually didn't get a single benefit from doing this. Nothing. As long as they don't use this during the kill, which, you know, they haven't killed the boss yet, and I would assume they're not doing it, or it has been fixed even right now. So then the argument is, okay, should he be banned if he used something that wasn't intended, with intention though, but didn't gain an advantage? I don't know. And the other point that I want to make is this message from Sorbrick. This was a couple of weeks ago. I made a video about this. If you didn't know that the Echo Raiders and some other Raiders had been banned during the normal mode and heroic week, then I made a video about it, so you can go and watch it. Basically, some players have been banned in Echo, in Method as well, and one player in Liquid had been banned for abusing the renowned track. So basically gaining reputation with a certain faction in a not intended way. There were various different bug abuses that they did. But the thing that is important here is when Sorbrick messaged the Race World First Raiders, he told them that they're going to get banned and that it will be rolled back. And then he said, this is not a step we take lightly, but game integrity demands that there be consequences beyond just rolling back gains, or we're just incentivizing competitive players to take immediate advantage of every exploit they find. So the problem here is that I think if they're going to ban some of the Echo players, some of the Method players, and one of the Liquid players for the renown thing, which was barely a gain, but it was a gain, right? But barely. And they rolled them back, so it wasn't like a gain anymore after the bans. And then they like type out this message where they say, hey, we don't want people to feel incentivized to use bugs. You could argue that, well, then Fired Up probably should be suspended for a couple of days or for some time at least, just to like show the Race World First players, hey guys, like we're serious about this. Like stop this, right? Because if they don't ban him now, if he won't get a suspension, right? Then players are still going to be on the edge, right? It's like, yeah, we got banned for the whole renown thing, but players actually abusing things that gives you more damage, gives you an actual advantage, like in the Race World First, that does not get banned. Like, so if they find a bug in the future where they would gain more damage, should they just then be using it because Fired Up didn't get banned? Like, so it's like, I can see both arguments. I personally am also a bit torn. Like, I personally wouldn't know what to do. Like, I'm glad I'm not in Blizzard's shoes here, and I don't have to make any decisions, obviously. I personally, what I really care about is the Race World First, obviously. And I don't want the guilds to be in a situation where they constantly have to look at each other and like point fingers at each other and constantly look for exploits that the other guilds are using just to call them out. Because the question is, why did Fired Up stop using this bug? Because he got called out, right? I think it is very likely that Fired Up would have used this bug on the kill if he wouldn't have been called out. Because, I mean, that was his intention, right? Why would he switch to it if he's not going to stick to it, right? So I think his intention was to kill the boss with this bug. Otherwise, there was no purpose for him to even do this. So then you're like, okay, he wanted to do it, but then backpedaled because he got called out. If Blizzard now does not do anything, then it obviously encourages the guilds to continue to monitor each other and constantly look at what they're doing, right? Which I personally think would be very toxic. And I don't like that. Like, I don't want the guilds to constantly like look at each other like, they're using this bug and this guild is doing that, you know, and like that would be super toxic. So I don't know. But then on the other hand, the fact that they didn't actually gain an advantage is the biggest problem I have here. If they would have killed the boss with this bug, I would have been like, okay, you definitely should be banning Fired Up. Like, then 100% sure, in my opinion, he should have been banned after this message that I'm seeing here, right? But they didn't kill the boss with it. And they didn't gain an advantage. The boss does not change anything. Like, they gained 0 advantage. So now I'm like, I personally am torn. I'm like, I don't know. Like, should a player get banned for a bug exploit if they didn't gain any advantage from it? I don't know, it's very difficult. Another thing to note is the fact that it was caught on stream, right? You can argue, so what if there's a lot of people that play Mage that abuse this bug every day? but they're not streaming it, and no one cares about them because they're just, I don't know, like maybe they're just like unknown and plus players or whatever. Like, should you punish one player for using a bug because they have streamed it on a third-party website that has nothing to do with Blizzard, while other people don't get banned for it? That's another argument you can make. I personally think that Blizzard, they can definitely go and check if the bug was abused or not through their own data, because they can obviously see the debuff stacking up high, right? They can just go and go through the tries that Liquid did on the boss, and they can see, oh, Spellslinger stacks went up to 220. Clearly, they've used the bug, right? So they can verify the bug, but the fact that they wouldn't have known without somebody telling them, and they wouldn't have known if they wouldn't stream, right? That's also like a little bit of like a questionable thing, I guess, as well, that you could argue that, because again, this is not an official, like the Race War First is not an official race. I guess some people think it is, but it's not. So people say, oh, just ban him for the Race War First, but that doesn't work because it's not an official race. So the only thing they can do is either they ban Fired Up or they don't. One thing that I was thinking that would be like an in-between kind of solution that might actually work, like some sort of like compromise, would be maybe, let's say they wait. What if Blizzard waits for Liquid to kill the boss, without the exploit, of course, and then they ban Fired Up? Then they can say, so we've looked into like your tries on this boss, and we noticed that one of your players was like using this bug, or that you in particular used this bug, and we're gonna ban you for 2 days or whatever. And then it wouldn't interfere with the Race of First that much, because obviously banning Fired Up before they kill the boss would interfere with the race quite a lot, because then they would have to get in another mage, another player somehow, and it would obviously matter a lot. But if they ban Fired Up after the boss goes down, then it would still affect them greatly, because losing Fired Up would obviously be pretty bad. But they can go and attempt the Silken Cord with just a different setup, right? So I do think maybe if they want to go with like a compromise kind of deal, they could just, you know, like not ban him for now and then wait for the kill and then ban him like for a day or two afterwards. And then maybe it still gives the message to the players that, hey, you shouldn't be bug abusing. And then maybe in the future, the raiders will not do it anymore. Because right now, the raiders are in the situation where they're like, oh, I found a bug. Do I use it or do I not use it? Like, just being in a situation where you're unclear if you get punished by Blizzard or not for using it is just a bad place to be in for both Echo and Liquid, for any like top guilds, or anyone else for that matter too. It's not just about top guilds, it's also about anyone else. Like, if you are in a situation where you see a bug that would give you an advantage, and you know that in the past other people have used bugs like this and they didn't get punished, then you feel like, oh my god, I have to do this to get an advantage, because yeah, there's a very high chance I won't get punished for it, right? Because people haven't got punished in the past. And especially with this message in mind here, it's just a difficult situation to be in. I don't know, like, I personally am torn. I don't think that a super harsh punishment is required or even warranted, considering that they didn't gain an advantage. I do think the intent of trying to kill the boss with an exploit was there. And I think I would understand any decision that Blizzard makes here. Like, if they don't ban the Fired Up at all, if they don't do anything, if they don't punish him at all, I would understand. Because again, they didn't gain an advantage. I would understand. I would also understand if they ban him for the reasons that I mentioned before, that, you know, this statement here by Sorbricks, the fact that they want people to not feel like they have to abuse bugs, and the intent behind him wanting to kill the boss with the bug, right? So I think there's arguments for both sides here, objectively, like, looking at it. And yeah, I don't know what Blizzard is going to do. So far, he hasn't gotten banned, of course. So we'll see. But yeah, that is my personal opinion. Like, I mean, I don't really have an opinion. I'm just like, I don't know what to do, but I could understand both sides. But I would love to hear what you guys think about this. One thing I want to note, though, before you start like typing in the comments, please make sure we are staying as civil as possible. This is a game. Like, this is not anything like super serious. We're not talking about jail or about the law or about anything like that. This is very much a game, and the Race to World First is a community-based event that is not an official race. There's no prize pool, okay? Keep that in mind as well. And just keep it civil. Also make sure you're understanding that Fired Up as a person can still be like a very nice person while still like doing something in the game that was against the rules, right? You don't have to like attack Fired Up as like a person. Please don't do that. Fired Up is a very nice person, and he does not deserve any like personal attacks for this, okay? Just keep that in mind. I do not want anything like that in my comments here. Also, again, I don't want any personal attacks on the other players. Also, Gingy for calling him out. I think he had the right to do so. I personally think it was definitely good that he called him out, because that's what made him stop using the bug as well, right? That it gained some attention. So I do think that you also shouldn't be calling out Ginger for it. Just keep it civil. Just try to keep it constructive. And yeah, I would still love to hear what you guys think about this in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know what you think. Have a nice rest of your day, and goodbye.